just so cool to walk out my back door and get food from my yard.
It's really amazing.
You
And
put-
I've been the grateful recipient of some of that food, and it's delicious.
And you know, at the beginning of the spring, you put seeds in the ground, and then a month later, you come back and there's food. It's like
Magic.
Magic. It is. It's totally magic.
And it sounds to me like for you, it's also just another way of creating, right? Because, okay, so you put seeds in the ground, and then you go out later and there's food. Now, there's not as much active time for you in between, but like when you go to write a new piece, you know, you say, okay, here's the seeds of an idea, and then through a lot of hard work and toil and heartbreak and hardship, you come back and then there's musical food.
That's very
a little
true.
more involved. And for those of you who don't know, I've been the wonderful recipient not only of food from your garden, but your musical food too, because you wrote this amazing piece for me called Daemon, which is for solo flute. Take me through the process of planting that garden, as it were.
Yeah, well, I love that you bring up that metaphor because one of the things with the garden is you don't always know exactly what you're going to get. When I write a piece of music, one of the things that I find really cool is that the players will bring something to it and find something in it that I didn't realize was there.
Uh-huh.
And that's amazing to me. I think that some composers are a lot stricter than I am about, you know, play exactly what I wrote, exactly the way I wrote it. I don't know if it means I'm humble or just lazy, but I'm like, hey, if you got an idea for how to do it, by all means, I want to hear it. Because I trust you
Right.
to know what to do.
Absolutely. And you know, I've worked with composers on all ends of that spectrum, but I think that like for instance on the piece you wrote for me, I mean, you came to me with drafts, you came to me with ideas, you came to me with the thoughts behind the piece and the concepts. I felt very involved in the process the entire way along. And so when it came to actually, okay, this is what I think is the final draft, start interpreting it, I felt like I had some ownership from you, some license from you, because I understood enough of your process and what you really wanted to express to feel free to make it my own and take some ownership on it as well. And I mean, it's 100% your piece, but I feel super invested in it. And those sort of experiences are always my favorite with composers, because I have no talent to rub two notes together and make anything happen. So I'm never going to have my name in the upper right corner. But those sort of collaborations make me almost feel like some little part of me does, and it makes me really happy.
How cool is that we can live it vicariously through each other at the same time?
Right.
So when I started writing that piece for you, we did have these conversations about what I was thinking about. And something that I've been interested in for a long time is looking at things that aren't quite working right, and kind of bringing the struggle of the practice room into a piece of music,
Right.
which may be ill-advised, but I enjoy it. So for you to be willing to go there with me and play these phrases that at first kind of sound like, oh, did she just make a mistake? Like something went not quite right there, but it's part of the drama of the piece. It's so generous of you to be willing to do that with me and to make it work and to put the theatricality into it so the audience gets it, I think, pretty much right away that, oh, okay, we're going through this process where you're starting to play, like, and I purposely chose the most iconic flute line ever because I wanted to create this experience of the pressure to be perfect, and what better piece to have the pressure to be perfect on
That Afternoon of a Fawn.
right than the one that everybody has to play, and there's probably a handful of performances that are the iconic ones that everyone will compare you to. So yeah, I just went ahead and ripped that right off.
Absolutely. And there's something really liberating about that. You know, going back to that spirit of collaborating on pieces, one of the big reasons I commission so much is because part of me is still that little girl with imposter syndrome every time I walk on stage. If I can walk on stage and see a friend there on the music stand, it makes it so much better. And because we had been through this collaboration, because I trusted you implicitly in what you were writing, you know, it's not scary to go out and have the first thing I do be totally fail at playing fawn in the very first bar of the piece and then throw a physical hissy fit about it.
Right.
So there's something that's very reassuring about the way that you wrote the piece, that makes taking that feeling of potential failure or ripping away the curtain from the practice room and makes it very comforting, oddly, to do, to share that experience with the audience.
That's wonderful. So then the piece doesn't just do that. It doesn't just make you scrub and then have an anxiety attack about it. It goes on from there and has, I think, a happy ending.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, lush, beautiful lyricism, really exploiting what the flute does best.
Thank you. I wanted it to be kind of a whole tour through the emotional range, the musical range. So it has depression and anxiety and failure, and then it also has elation and joy and sadness too. It has some tragedy in there. So it includes it all, and it does it in a mere 7 minutes.
I know, it's really incredible, but well, sometimes we all go through that cycle in 7 minutes, depending on the day and depending on the circumstance. And so to have a microcosm of all the human emotions in one piece, I think it's a real eye-opener, soul opener for an audience. It's one of the reasons I really like sharing it on concerts, and it's certainly very soul cleansing for me in the middle of a concert to play that piece for those reasons too.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for writing me an awesome work.
Thank you for asking me.
You bet.